All right, so on the podcast today, we have Glenda Richardson, who is a Helpline volunteer and a former state president for Mothers Against Drug Driving. And also, we have attorney David Hodge from Morris King and Hodge, who is also recently listed as one of the best lawyers in America. So, in the discussion today, we're going to be discussing the problem of drunk driving in Alabama, the services that are available to victims through MAD, and ways that we can all get involved in continuing to reduce the accidents, as well as some of the legal options that are available to victims. So, Glenda, I'd like to thank you for spending a little time with us today. Can you give us a little bit of your background and your story and how you got involved with MAD and what the helpline does to help individuals that have been affected by drunk driving?
Yes, and thank you for bringing this to the forefront of our community. When I had my first encounter with drunk driving, I was living with my husband, Paul Ray, who was a Presbyterian minister, and our two sons, Doug, who was 12, and David, who was 7. Not only did I have a happy home life and peace with God, I loved my job, which was teaching. Things could not have been better for us. We left our home on August the 14th for a 2-week vacation. The last thing I remember about that day was buying gas for the car. I awoke 5 days later in Vanderbilt Hospital's intensive care unit. I had a ruptured spleen, a punctured, collapsed lung, 16 broken bones, and many other internal injuries. I had suffered 2 cardiac arrests and had developed pneumonia. I was in pain, but the worst pain was to come 2 days later when my mother, my doctor, and a friend who was also a minister in our denomination came to my bedside. I'll never forget the exact words Don said. He said, "Glenda, you've been asking about your family ever since you've been conscious, and we haven't been truthful with you because we wanted you to gain some strength first. But now we must tell you that Paul Ray, Doug, and David were all killed in that crash you were in last Saturday." I later learned that we were hit head on by a drunk driver making more than 90 miles an hour. I didn't know anyone who had lost their whole family. I didn't know of anyone who had been killed or had a family member killed or injured in a drunk driving crash. I felt devastated and had no one to listen who really understood my loss. 10 years later, MAD was organized in Huntsville, 1 year after its organization nationally. I went to the first meeting, which was held at Huntsville High School. I joined that night and told the organizers that I wanted to work with victims of drunk driving. It would be my purpose to let victims know that they could recover but not forget. Since that time, I've helped victims find MAD programs which empowered them. One of the things I do is I'm an advocate on the National Helpline. Our helpline is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week helpline. I'm the advocate on duty from 5 p.m. until midnight every Monday. People call our helpline at 877-MAD-HELP, and the calls go to an answering service in Texas. The operator then calls me and turns the call over to me. I listen to people explain how drunk driving has changed their lives. I give them as much information as I can, but mostly I listen. I get information about where they are and give them contact information for a MAD advocate in their area. After the call is over, I enter information about the call in MAD's computer program, and then I send information to the advocate in the area where the victim lives. Many of my calls have really touched me. Alice called recently. She was in ICU with her 20-year-old daughter who was hit by a drunk driver as she was on her way home from work. Her daughter had many injuries, including a serious brain injury. Doctors didn't give her much hope that her daughter would make it through the night. She said, "Nothing like this has ever happened to us, and I don't know what to do." I told her that most of us wouldn't know what to do, but MAD does care and would be with her and would help her through her tragedy. I gave her a phone number of an advocate in her area who could help her. I recorded the information on the victim program and sent the advocate in her area an email. Early the next day, I received an email from the advocate telling me that she was on her way to the hospital. This was very rewarding to me. Most of the calls break my heart, but it's rewarding to be able to get help for them. I received a call from May, who drives a school bus in a western state. Some of the children she had driven for several years. A mother and her 4 children, the children who ride May's bus, were hit by a drunk driver. A boy and a girl were killed, and another boy was critically injured. May sobbed as she asked how she could help these children who ride her bus. Deanna's husband was hit by a drunk driver going the wrong way on a divided highway. Her husband was hit on his way home from work on his motorcycle. He lost his leg, and his hand was badly damaged. She wanted to talk to an advocate in her area who could explain the laws of her state and what to expect at a trial. Many of the calls are about child endangerment. They know children who ride with an intoxicated parent or an adult and have no other choice but to get in the car. Besides giving them correct information for contacting an advocate in their area, I tell them to contact law enforcement with the location and license number of the drunk driver. If the drunk driver is a divorced parent, I tell them to get in touch with their divorce attorney who can help them. In one of our programs that we teach in school, we teach the children that if it's at all possible to get a trusted adult involved in their situation. If they must ride with the intoxicated driver, the safest place is the back seat in the middle with their objects on the floor, and always wear their seatbelt. I could tell you many other stories, but I will not.
Glenda, this is David Hodge. I just want to thank you for sharing your story with us, and it's really remarkable taking a tragedy like that, your personal strength, and making it a positive in terms of helping others and hopefully to help prevent this from happening again. One of the things, could you give us the number for the helpline?
Yes, the number is 81877-MADD-HELP, M-A-D-D, HELP.
Great. Thanks so much, Glenda. You also mentioned in your biography on the MADD website that there are other things that MADD does to help people that they don't know about until they've actually encountered an accident. Can you go a little bit more into the different details and services that individuals have access to through MADD?
Yes, we'd like for the whole community to know about them and to take advantage of them if they ever have a need. And there are some things that they may want to get involved in if they're not a victim. Victims may ask for information, or other people may call us for information on the judicial system. Every MADD has its own brochure and laws and penalties for drunk driving crimes in that state. We have one for Alabama. MADD may support them in court, and later the victim may want to support another victim in court. It's very rewarding. We have no official business there, but it helps victims to know that someone who believes in them is there to support them. We can help victims with their own victim impact statements, which they would read in the court at the sentencing. We have support groups for victims. Victims gain strength knowing that others have gone through a drunk driving crash and survived. If there's not a support group in their area, we can get them in touch with a friend who has been through a similar loss, and they can talk to this person whenever they need to. We have memorial services. These services are held near the holiday season. After a victim begins a season lighting a candle for someone who was killed or injured, someone that they love, in a crash, he or she is more able to experience the meaning of the holiday. The Victim Impact Panel is a great service. 3 or 4 victims of drunk driving tell their stories of how drunk driving impacted their lives to offenders of drunk driving who are sentenced by the court to attend a panel. Offenders who never considered what might happen when they drive intoxicated are touched, and many say they're hearing the panel is a life-changing experience. Mm-hmm. The panel is also rewarding for the victim because they need to tell their story over and over. It also gives them the knowledge that they're telling it will probably keep the same thing from happening to someone else. Recently, one of our panel members was in the checkout line at the grocery store, and the cashier said, "I know you. How's your husband?" And she said, "Were you one of my students?" Because she taught school. He told her no, that he heard her and her injured husband at a victim impact panel. And he told her that hearing them had changed his life.
Wow.
Glenda, could you speak a little bit more about the campaigns that MAD offers to help eliminate impaired driving and educate people about the dangers of drunk driving?
Yes, the campaign to eliminate drunk driving was started in 2006 and has been very effective. It has 3 important steps. We support our heroes is the first step. Our heroes, of course, are our law enforcement officers. We support high visibility law enforcement to catch drunk drivers and to discourage others from driving drunk. This would include checkpoints, alcohol checkpoints, and high visibility on our streets and highways. The second step is Sober to Start, which requires ignition interlock devices for all drunk drivers who have been convicted to prove that they are sober before their car will start. In Alabama, we do have this law. And the third step is Secure the Future. We support the development of technology to determine automatically whether or not the driver is above the legal limit of .08. And if he is, the car would not operate. Mm-hmm. We have 2 other programs we feel are important. Recently, these programs have been developed. One is the Power of Youth. It's a school-based program for high school teens to influence each other not to drink under the age of 21 and to never get in the car with a drinking driver. It includes a video contest, which is fun, and a handbook for them and for their leader, which teaches underage drinking facts and gives stories and discussion prompts and a pledge for them to sign at the end. The Power of Parents is another research-based program designed for parents of high school students. It helps parents to have an ongoing, intentional, and potentially life-saving conversation about alcohol with their teens. Research has shown that parents have more influence than anyone on their children, even more than their peers.
Great. Now, Glenn, I want to circle back. You had mentioned that Alabama had passed legislation that expands the use of ignition locks for all convicted drunk drivers to also include first-time convicted drunk drivers with their blood alcohol level .08 or above. But also, Alabama saw an 8% increase in drunk driving fatalities the year prior. Do you believe that we need more aggressive laws and law enforcement to help eliminate drunk driving? And what other roles can technology play in preventing drunk drivers from even being able to start their car?
We have some good drunk driving laws, and the requiring the ignition interlock device is probably the best one that we have. It would be the most effective, but it's not being enforced. I was really excited when the bill was signed into law because I know this would decrease DUI fatalities and injuries and arrest. I'm not sure where the fault lies that it's not being enforced, but I hope that in the near future everything will be worked out and this law will be enforced. States enforcing this law have seen dramatic reductions in DUI fatalities. I believe that technology will eventually bring an end to drunk driving. Research is being done that will cause the car not to start, if alcohol is present.
Great. David, so what roles do law firms like Morris, King & Hodge play in their communities to help prevent drunk driving?
Well, in addition to just advocacy for victims of drunk driving, we have sponsored a couple of things that we think and we hope will help reduce the number of drunk driving accidents and help with people if they have been a victim of drunk driving. One is we sponsor the Driver Safety Taxi and Tow Program, and that's on New Year's Eve. We know that there will be a lot of celebrations, a lot of people going to restaurants and bars, and so we offer a free service that will help people to avoid drinking and driving. And what that is they can get a free ride home as well as a free tow for their vehicle. A lot of people are hesitant to take a taxi when they should if they're having to leave their car somewhere. So what we'll do is we will pay to have their car towed to their home or wherever they want it towed that night if they don't drive it. And hopefully that will reduce the number of drunk drivers on our roads. The second major program that we have recently been helping with is sponsoring the Helpline. And the way we can help is we sponsor television ads to inform the community about the work that Glenda and others at MAD are doing with the MAD Helpline. And that lets victims of drunk driving get in touch with people that can really offer help, as Glenda described earlier.
Right. So Morris, King & Hodge represents victims of drunk drivers. What legal options do you normally explore for your clients in order to get them the compensation they need to recover and take care of themselves?
Well, the first is the drunk driver themselves and the insurance coverage that they may have. Unfortunately, a lot of times that's extremely limited. So the next thing you look at is where did the person become intoxicated, and if it was a bar or restaurant, if they bought it while intoxicated from a convenience store, then Alabama has dram shop laws, and that provides basically that if you are a seller of alcohol or liquor and you sell to an intoxicated person or to someone who's underage, and that person goes out and harms someone else, you as the seller of that alcohol can be held responsible. Unfortunately, while the law is good in that it holds these people accountable, these retailers accountable, if you serve alcohol to an intoxicated person, the requirements for the insurance is limited. And that is something that we are trying to work with right now in raising those limits to have a license to distribute or sell alcohol. You only have to have $100,000 in coverage, and quite frankly, that's simply not enough. People who lose loved ones or who have hospitalizations, lose time from work as a result of drunk drivers, that $100,000 can be spent really quickly. And we think it's unfair, quite frankly, that limit is so low. And right now we are working with the Alabama Association for Justice in Montgomery to try to raise those limits.
Gotcha. So what type of evidence do you typically gather in a dram shop case? I know you mentioned going back and finding out where they got drunk. Is there anything else that you're looking for?
Yeah, the most important thing is the law says that you cannot serve people who are visibly intoxicated. And so that is where it takes a lot of investigation, a lot of work to meet that element of the dram shop law. You have to go and you have to interview witnesses, try to secure videotapes. Oftentimes we'll hire toxicologists that can show based on blood alcohol content that the person more likely than not was visibly intoxicated at the time they were served. And that is the kind of evidence we try to gather.
Gotcha. So for most people, selecting an injury attorney is probably the last thing on their mind. But if the unimaginable does occur, they are injured by a drunk driver, or in any other case, a distracted driver also is now a huge problem that we're having in our roads. It's right that they choose the right law firm to represent them. So why is Morris, King & Hodge going to be the right choice for members of the Alabama community?
One, I think, is because we have a lot of experience in these cases. Two is we take cases to court. We try cases, we litigate cases. Adjusters know that, defense attorneys know that, and I think it helps in the end get a positive outcome for victims, because people know we're willing to take it all the way to trial, all the way to appeal, to the very end of the case. There are other law firms that do an excellent job as well, but I think that we offer a good service, and I think our reputation and our experience and our tenacity in pursuing these cases are good things for clients to seek out.
Gotcha. So can you walk us through a little bit more in the legal process and what that your firm takes in order to recover damages for injury victims?
The first is investigation, and that may be the most important, because a couple of things. One, a victim doesn't want to go through a legal process or a lawsuit if it's not a viable claim. And so we try to do a lot of groundwork. We'll use private investigators. We'll go to the scene of accidents. We'll work with local law enforcement to make sure that this is a claim that is worth pursuing, both in terms of outcome and to help the victim. And once we made that decision, then we either will try to resolve the claim through an insurance company if they're part of the process, or by filing a suit and beginning the lawsuit.
Great. Glenda, can you tell us a little bit more where people can get more information on MAD in order to help spread awareness and prevention?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that MAD is not opposed to drinking alcohol. It's opposed to drunk driving. Our mission statement says that MAD is to end drunk driving, help fight drugged driving, support victims of these violent crimes, and prevent underage drinking. And we hope that other people will get involved in MAD to end these crimes. If you want to be a part of this, I would advise you to call 1-800-635-0722 or call 256-233-6189 and ask for Glenda Richardson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenda. And David, your firm has developed a car accident checklist as well to help people understand kind of what the next steps are in case they ever find themselves in this situation. Where can they go to download a copy and learn more about your firm?
Absolutely. Log on to www.mkhlawyers.com, and they can download the checklist from there.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you both so much for being on the call today, and again, we hope and pray that this is going to be one more resource that can be used to help eliminate drunk driving in Alabama. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenda.